Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. And I think it would be appropriate to start with the most important anime news of the past 10, 20 years, maybe ever, that we got this week. And that is the return of Birdie Wing has been confirmed.
Whoa.
April 7th. April 7th, folks. Only like a month and a half away or something, and the greatest anime of all time will be returning. I hope
anime is saved once again.
Hope you're all excited. I guess Gundam's probably coming back too, right? But
yes,
whatever. We know where our
Leiji
heart
Matsumoto
really is.
gave the last of his spirit to ensure Birdie Wing would return to save us. Rip Leiji Matsumoto.
R.I.P. Shout out to the legend Leiji Matsumoto, who yes, also passed away since we last spoke.
At least indirectly led to GLORIO's 2012 anime.
God. Let's not talk about how long ago that was.
When did Yamato
I think it was
2199 winner anime of the year? Okay.
Jesus.
I think it was 2014 anime of the year.
Well, Gundam wouldn't exist without Space Battleship Yamato, and Birdie Wing wouldn't exist without Gundam, so really...
It all comes back to
I think you make a salient point there.
Yeah, so R.I.P. to Leiji Matsumoto, of course. All right, well, we got a lot to talk about in this episode.
Oh, boy,
we got a lot of things going on that just we need to cover, so we need to get moving. Let's introduce everybody. I am Jel. We're joined by Iro.
I'm still here. I'm not dead yet.
Still with us. We're joined by G.
I have a pretty good bit, but I know we're on we want to go fast, so I'm just going to save it for maybe the next podcast.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, G. It's taking all of my strength not to talk about Labyrinth of Galeria on this episode. So
Look,
we'll save
in a future podcast. We can do game talk. You could talk about that. I can talk about Hosokai no Yoru.
You guys have correctly guessed.
You can
that
talk
I was
about
about to talk
Yakuza
about.
Ishin.
You guys correctly guessed I was about to talk about a video game, what I think is very delightful.
You can talk about Hi-Fi Rush.
No, you guys have not gotten close to the game.
Oh my goodness!
Okay.
I want to talk about.
Well, that'll be a cliffhanger for next episode. Maybe we'll do a gaming segment next time. But anyway, we're also joined by Peter. We finally got you back.
Yeah, I'm like about 70% here. I'm a bit unwell, but I'll get through things.
Well,
You are also not
Peter,
dead yet.
yeah, also not
70%.
Working on
70% is more than some of us do on a good day. So
yeah. Well, we appreciate you toughing it out with us, but yeah, we got a lot of talk about. Aside from our usual anime. We've actually gone some places since last time, and maybe we can kick things off with Peter. You went to Japan.
I did.
Past
The homeland.
the homeland, if you will. Yes.
The legendary.
This past was it 2 weeks or you were out there?
I went for a week.
Or you were out there for a week, but yes. And
yeah.
how was your trip?
Yeah. It was good. I went from 15th of Feb to 22nd Feb. And I went because of Aikatsu, obviously. Most
the world's
on-brand
number
trip.
one Aikatsu fan, yes.
Yeah, because what's happening with Aikatsu is basically for the, I think, third time they're threatening to kill it all off.
Oh yeah,
and sort of half saying that it's the end. And so they've got a film in cinemas, which is like the sort of a sequel to the original series from 2012, where the characters are graduating school and going to college or whatever. And then, as well as the film in cinemas, there was also the final live concerts So I busted my glow sticks out, and I had 2 days worth of idol concerts.
So, if I may ask, is the deal with Aikatsu then like every season or whatnot has like a rotated cast like a Love Live might, where here's some new idols to do, and so bringing back the original cast for this movie is seen as a big deal, or am I completely off base there?
No, you're kind of on, right, because the thing with, I guess it is comparable with Love Live in that you've got 4 distinct shows. You've got
Okay.
Aikatsu Stars, Aikatsu Friends, and then Aikatsu Planet.
No. Okay.
And original Aikatsu ran from 2012 to 2015, I think. It ran for 2016. It ran for like 180 episodes.
Right.
And then
I think that was
then
one of the
Aikatsu
first. I think that was one of the first looks I ever did for the GLORIO blog, but it's going way back.
But yeah, that was like the original, and it had a film at the time as well.
Okay.
It technically had 2 films, or one of them was kind of just like a bunch of music videos with some MC between. But then
so this would be like the 10th anniversary movie.
Yeah. The 10th anniversary is why all this is happening.
Got it.
But yeah, Aikatsu Stars was like, I think 70 odd episodes. Aikatsu Friends was, I think, 50. Aikatsu Planet was their weird half anime, half live action hybrid thing.
Okay.
Which I kind of bounced off of. Like I wasn't super into it, but I know some people were. And there was also Aikatsu on Parade, which was like a weird spin-off where they had a multiverse of madness moment where people from each series,
the team up.
Yeah, they sort of So I don't want to go 2 for 2 into detail, but in the show itself, the Aikatsu system is how they do the transformation from school uniform into the idol outfit using the cards that they use in the arcade game. And
right, okay.
Aikatsu on Parade, one of the engineers of the Aikatsu system, finds a way to basically let people transport themselves to another universe. And the other universes have the idols from other series of Aikatsu. And so they have like the crossover thing. This is pre-Planet, so there's no weird Who Framed Roger Rabbit moments.
So it's kind of like when... It's kind of like when Kamen Rider will have a power-up that is... and the theme of that one power-up is last year's Kamen Rider... And they got that special form from last year's. That is just previous character form.
Sure, yeah, let's go with that.
Right. Yeah, sorry. So how was the movie?
Movie was good. Movie was like, I feel a part of me wants to like do like try and avoid spoilers, but at the same time, I think like maybe 2 people in the entire audience might be interested in seeing it. But short version is it's all about the graduation,
idol graduation type thing,
and so they're graduating from the school and thinking about the future. Here's the spoiler bit, so I guess skip forward like a minute or 2. But they have a time skip, and you see them as adults, which kind of blew everyone's mind, to the point where one of them just gets flat out wasted.
Gasp.
Yeah, like it was kind of like unusual for like an idol show to show these characters just getting flat drunk.
Right. So like, even though it's been 10-year anniversary, there's still just been high school students the entire time. So they've not aged in real time.
Yeah. I mean, you might argue that this time skip is them catching up to
Right.
the present, like a 10 years later thing. Although the film structure is they sort of got like before graduation, and then they're sort of thinking about it, and then there's the time skip for a bit, and then the people, the adults will reminisce back again, and then there's like the final concert before like the graduation concert, and then it's all sort of rounds off at the end.
So, the big thing was the concert, though, right? Like that's what the
yeah, that was kind of the main reason for going. Like seeing the movie is one thing. Like it's nice being able to see it in the cinema, but or theater for you Yanks. But but yeah, the concerts were the big thing because it was 2 days of concerts. First one was 3 hours, second one was 4 hours. It was a heck of a weekend, and this brought everyone from all 4 seasons together, and the actual IRL idols who performed for them. I say idols. Aikatsu and Aikatsu Stars and Aikatsu Planet had idols as their singers, whereas Aikatsu Friends had actual VAs do both the singing and the voices.
Right.
Which meant that I got to see Ikasa Yoko live, so I've got that ticket.
Oh, Anafugo.
Anafugo herself, yes.
Everyone's favorite.
Soon to voice Astro Boy.
Yeah. Have you been to those type of concerts before, Peter? Because like that's
So I said before that this is like the 3rd time that they've said that they're killing off Aikatsu.
Okay. So you've been to the other 2 final. It's like Attack on Titan, where it's like the
final season,
season 3, part 2, whatever. Yeah.
So what happened in 2018, I think, was Aikatsu Stars had finished or was finishing. And the announcement of Aikatsu Friends also came with the announcement that because they're switching to using VAs for both talking and singing, the idols that they've got for just the singing were graduating from the franchise. And so that was when I went to the Budokan before the trio, which was another 2 days of concerts.
That's cool at Budokan.
Yeah.
The legendary.
Yeah, it was kind of a big deal at the time. And so, I went there for that, and it was pretty emotional because, like, it was that. But then, like, they kept bringing them back. And, like, so even, like, Aikatsu Friends had, like, a bunch of other, like, it was like a whole new cast, both for voices and singing. They still had some concerts where they brought some of the older idols back. But they weren't allowed to call themselves their group names anymore. They were just like under their
special guests.
Names. Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
How many glow sticks did you wave? How many did you go through?
I had 2. I didn't use the like disposable ones. I've got like the proper light stick.
Oh, okay.
Battery power.
Oh wow!
Okay.
Nice. Prepared. That's cool.
I've got one that I bought from the Budokan Live, and then one that I got this time. Because and it's in the shape of a rice scoop this time.
Okay. Is that a recurring motif in Aikatsu?
Yeah. The thing that happened with like back to OG Aikatsu, like the main protagonist Ichigo was staffing her mum's bento shop, and she had like used a rice scoop. And like she was like pretending to be an idol, holding the rice scoop like a microphone, and then she turned the rice scoop into a real microphone. And so that has become a motif of Aikatsu. And so 10th anniversary, you've got actual rice scoop light sticks now.
Of course.
Nice.
Easy merchandise.
So did you do anything else cool out there aside from the concert?
I mean, here's here's a public service announcement for anyone thinking about going to Japan or arriving in Japan or whatever. If you're going to Shibuya, maybe just don't. Or try and avoid using the mainline rail station, because it is just a huge construction nightmare at the moment, and I mean, Shibuya Station's a maze at the best of times, but at the moment it's even worse because there's just like temporary routes to get everywhere, and even like saying, "Oh yeah, let's meet at the Hachiko statue."
I mean,
that's
everyone's there though, right? Like,
yeah, it's not recommended. But I did go there, and because I went to the Pokemon Center and the Nintendo store, made a T-shirt at the Pokemon Center.
Nice. Clearly, JRPGs and anime need to find a new iconic landmark for the party to agree to meet up at the established time.
Yeah,
they have like freed up area around the Hachiko statue though. So like once all the construction is done, I think it'll actually be quite a nice like area around there. It's just at the moment it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also paid a visit to Hiroshima for a day. I'd been briefly to Hiroshima in the past, but like I'd not really spent much time there before. So went there, met a YouTuber, hung out for a bit.
Like a Japanese YouTuber, or
Japanese travel YouTuber.
Okay.
They've got like a couple hundred subs or whatever.
Like a scheduled meetup, or did you just see them and go, "Oh, it's that guy"?
Oh no, it was like I said that I was going to Hiroshima, and they messaged me saying, "Hey, like, do you want to get some like food or whatever?" So we had economy.
That's cool.
That was nice.
Nice.
Then I went off to like the main. This is going super off topic, but the main reason I went to Hiroshima was because there's just outside of Hiroshima in Seno was a weird gondola suspended monorail thing that's being closed down later this year, and I wanted to go on it before it shut down. So I did that. I went to Miyajima as well. Like I'd not been there before. Saw some deer.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, do you think this is actually the final concert, or
no?
No. Okay, so you'll be back, right?
Yeah, like the thing about it being like final and all that. I think even the director has said that they want to do more. They've announced the end of service for the Aikatsu Planet arcade game, and they've not announced a replacement yet. So there might be a gap. Maybe they're thinking about what to do next. Maybe they'll give up on the arcade side of things and just try and focus on an anime in future. I don't know.
Didn't Bamco just open that new arcade, like in where the Sega Game Center used to be?
Yeah, it was opening like very shortly after I left, so I didn't get a chance to have a look in. But yeah, I fully expect to be back, if not for like another anniversary or something, because it's the 5th anniversary of Aikatsu Friends this year.
Yeah.
So
I guess if you keep making new sub-series, then you can keep going, like, it's the anniversary of this one, and then it's the anniversary of this one.
Yeah. Well,
and just keep it going. Right.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like fun regardless, and it sounds like you'll be back, so that's cool.
Yeah, I'll definitely be back. If not for like because obviously all the idols are off doing their own thing now. A lot of them have gone independent, even like they've left the agency that provided everyone to the series. So some of their solo concerts I'd quite like to go to.
Yeah. Nice. All right.
What event did you go to, Jel? Yeah.
It sounds like you also traveled this week.
Yeah, if I travel, you mean drive 5 minutes to my local mall theater? Yes, but I did. I did get out of the house to see the Kaguya-sama Love is War movie, The First Kiss That Never Ends, the subtitle.
Well,
just a middle-aged man going to an anime movie on Valentine's Day alone, as you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movie was very good.
That's good to hear.
Some general observations before we get to the movie.
Oh, yeah?
This is the first time I've ever been to an anime movie that wasn't like, I think I went to like one of the Dragon Ball movies or something, but like, Kaguya is not Dragon Ball popular, right? Like it's popular,
right.
but it's not like mainstream, like popular, right?
Certainly not in the States.
Yeah. Also, only until recently, most anime movie showings in the States, I feel like, were big one night only type events where
you'd have to go to a big city to see.
Yeah, and it would be very crowded because it's like everyone congregates there. Whereas now we've sort of hit a point where these movies are showing up in your local mall theater and such, right?
Yeah, because most of the time in years past, I would have to like drive down to New York City, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that to go see an anime movie. But this was this is 5 minutes from my house. Like this is such a low investment.
It would be foolish not to take advantage of it.
Such a low investment of time,
that
like I might as well just go. So, interesting. So it was a full theater, probably about 40 or 50 people. Interesting that I don't know if anybody there was under 30. I was kind of not expecting that. It was a little bit of an older crowd than I was expecting. Including one dude who was looked like a literal wizard. He had long gray hair and everything.
Right, yeah.
Damn, probably an OG. Was trading tapes back in the 80s or something.
Yeah, I'm here thinking I'm going to be the oldest guy here in the theater or whatever, and I'm pretty sure he was older than me.
This does remind me. Forgive me for a brief tangent. Last time I was at Anime Expo, and I was in the bathroom, and there was an old guy there wearing a tank top with dirty pair on it that said like AnimeCon 1982 or some shit.
Hell yeah.
And so like I'm washing my hands and some other guy walks up to this dude, some guy my age walks up to this guy and is like, "Oh man, you were at that con? Can you like tell me how the scene was back then?" In the middle of the bathroom.
It's like,
that's a little that's a bit much.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah. There's paying respect to your elders, and then there's like, let me wash my hands, bro. I just but
yeah. How about the movie itself?
So the movie itself was really good. I will say, if anybody's curious, this is not a recap movie. This is a direct sequel to season 3. Like they pick up literally moments after season 3 happens. So like, this is, whenever this becomes available in some capacity for everybody to watch, and you've watched season 3, you should definitely go watch this movie. It was interesting mix of like, how anime movies sometimes feel like it's just like a bunch of episodes patched together. Like you just watch like 3 episodes in a row.
Right.
This kind of felt in between that and still trying to make it like a structured movie. And in the Kaguya world, that kind of meant where they stayed almost entirely focused on Kaguya and Shirogane. So like there's not a ton of screen time for the rest of the cast, which is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because the movie is about, let's finally cement the relationship between the main couple that we have kind of neglected over the past season.
Right. Hasn't the past season mostly been about side characters anyway?
It's
or no.
It's a mix. Like it's I'd say it's like a true ensemble cast where everybody gets their episodes.
Gotcha.
But this is very much focused on Shirogane and Kaguya's relationship and the aftermath of Shirigane's big stunt in season 3. And
yes, the ultra romantic plan.
And it's interesting. The first half is absolutely hilarious. The second half probably gets right to the borderline of too serious and dramatic for this series.
Is there like actual peril or something?
Well, they kind of get into the psychology of like why Kaguya and Shirogane have had so much trouble like getting close to each other, and kind of reconciling the fact that Kaguya's technically a terrible person.
I mean, look,
but or at least she thinks so, right? And they kind of like they come to a very, I think it was a very good message from the movie, which is basically like, yeah, Shiragani's like big grand stunt at the end of season 3 was amazing and all, but like that's not like necessarily like what real love is. Real love is like
right,
sharing the good and the bad with your partner,
and not just grand theatrical rom-com.
And accepting the good and the bad with your partner, and that's kind of them working all that out in this movie. And yeah, it's really funny, really good. It's everything you love about Kaguya. And I'll just say, yeah, I don't want to spoil too much more. I'll just say,
yeah, I was gonna say, like, seeing as you're the only person who has seen it, you know, it's yeah, unfortunately, right, you kind of have to keep it on the vague side.
Yeah, I'll just say that if they do a season 4 of the anime, which they can, it really truly
will.
It really truly will be the Ishigami hair mark.
Okay. Alrighty, we're locked in, baby.
That will be.
It's time. I look, I've been saying this since like it became fairly obvious that like the Shirogane Kaguya relationship was they were going to inevitably hook up, right? I was like, this is a done deal. Yeah, we need to move on to the next great war.
So that I do have to ask: is this movie, based on what you said, like, is this movie a like you can watch it if you want, or just watch the hypothetical next season and you'll be fine? Or is this a like, this is core to the plot and you need to watch this to have full context for the next?
You absolutely have to watch this.
Okay,
this is non-negotiable.
Yeah, that is definitely what I've heard.
Okay,
yeah. So this is like direct sequel to see. This might as well be like the last
Made in Abyss movie.
It was like the Made in Abyss movie, or this might as well be like the last 4 episodes of season 3. Like that's
right. Yeah.
It's part of the series. So yeah, it's not a fun side story that you can take it or leave it, for sure. So
okay,
yeah, glad to hear that it sounds like they nailed it though, right? At least based on what you're describing, because again, like there was sort of that thing of like, it's the unspoken thing about Kaguya, right? Is like, you know, in a way, is like a lot of rom-coms, right? It is always about the chase. And what happens when the dog actually catches the car, right? It's like, where do you go from there? And it sounds like Kaguya-sama has an idea of where to go.
Yeah.
It's good.
And I will say, just again, going back to the theater experience, and this actually was the first time I've been to the movie since COVID. So,
yeah.
That was...
You didn't even go out for Fast 9? Wait, which one came out during COVID?
I'm not on that train. I have not been on that train.
I mean, I think all I went for was Dragon Ball Superhero.
Or Dragon Ball. Yeah, shoot.
The last movie I saw was Rise of Skywalker in December 2019.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. You have my condolences.
So I was not in the rush to get back to the movie, but
I clearly just have weird priorities because I feel like I've seen like a decent number of movies since COVID.
I don't go to the movies.
Friends to see them.
Yeah, I don't go to the movies a lot anyway. Yeah. I'm not like really a movie guy anyway, but that aside, it was cool being in the theater and everybody like laughing out loud
right
together and like having like a big room of people.
And big anime showings in the West are, you know, people hoot and holler.
Yeah, and there are, especially in the first half, there are a lot of they go in hard on the comedy in the first half, and there's a lot of just,
I mean, they gotta
laugh out loud.
They gotta convince the viewers, of course, right? Like, we know what we're doing.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite gags that I'll just throw in there is since it's a movie, they can actually say the word sex.
Whoa.
So they have one.
You can't beep it out. Don't have to beep it.
Yeah, they have one sequence where they just say sex for like 10 minutes, and it goes from like being funny to stupid to almost annoying, and then back around to being hilarious again. By the time they're done.
That one segment from Maidens in Our Savage Season, or whatever, right? Where they're like, we need to come up with ways to say sex.
It's something like that.
Y'all remember that?
That was a show, Eero.
Yeah, that sure was a thing.
Look, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's like, damn, that's a pull to...
So, anyway, if you're a Kaguya fan, go watch that as soon as you have access to it, is what I will say.
I am I'm absolutely gutted because I was in Japan when it came out in the cinemas in the UK, and so I'm looking now, and the only screenings of it are in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, and I am working.
Right, which is unfeasible. Yeah.
Oh, just take a day off. Actually, here it was.
That's what I would do.
Here it was 1 day only, at least in the theater by my house. So I'd had to go on Valentine's Day by myself. But, it was fun. All right.
Well, speaking of fun...
Leah, let's get to our regularly scheduled TV anime. And I heard talk that you guys finally finished JoJo's Adventure Part 6 and need to talk about it.
Quite a lot happened.
So... I know we're getting to this like 3 to 6 months late compared to everybody else, thanks to Netflix, but we have closed the book on part 6 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and
consequently, the sort of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, kind of 1 to 6 is kind of its own unit, and so in a way, it's the end of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yes, I suspect that we will eventually get more of the JoJo anime, but in many ways, this is sort of the place where, if they wished, David Productions could say, this is the end of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the anime. Because, this is one of those difficult things, right, of, it's not really a spoiler because, just sheer cultural osmosis and if even the slightest the problem is that you would have to exist in an isolation chamber to not even get a whiff of the premise of where JoJo goes after part 6.
Where part 6 ends is the manga of part 6 ended 20 years ago. This has been
right. Yeah, it's not really a spoiler anymore, but it also kind of is because of the spectacle of what happens. So I think we should just say straight up
yes,
this is going to be a part 6 spoiler cast, right? We were going to talk about the specific events that happen here at the end of the anime and sort of what that entails for the future of JoJo, both its manga and anime. And so the end of part 6, to just give a brief synopsis, Jolene and the crew have broken out of prison. They have been chasing after Pucci, the priest, who has merged with the Green Baby, which is a being formed from the last surviving bone of Dio Brando's body, merged with the soul of 36 sinners. And basically, this has allowed him
Tuesday
to evolve.
For JoJo.
Indeed, yes. And allowed him to evolve his stand, White Snake, into Sea Moon, and then subsequently into Made in Heaven. And Made in Heaven's ability, at this point, all JoJo villains, is a time-based ability.
Yes.
And Made in Heaven's is specifically the ability to rapidly accelerate the perception of time. What this essentially means is that days pass by in minutes. Objects appear to move at unbelievably fast speeds as a result. If you drop a glass from your hand, you'll blink and then the glass will be shattered on the ground, essentially. And this is because Pucci's plan, being a priest, and we've explained his backstory, where his motivation to become a priest was due to the nature of his childhood, his very involved childhood with half sibling
Weather Report. Yes.
Weather Report in the Deep South in the 60s or 70s or what. We got into that last week.
Anyway, yes.
But Pucci desires to basically accelerate time so quickly that he triggers a new Big Bang that will reset the universe, but this time with him as the sort of omnipotent clockmaker who will be able to direct and control fate to play out the way he believes is most ideal for the human race.
He believes that humanity can achieve true happiness, a true heaven, if predestination is enforced upon them, and that if everybody understands exactly what will happen to them, the good and the bad, they'll be able to come to terms with this and avoid, like plan for their futures, and that this would be true happiness because nobody would know suffering because they would just know what would happen already.
That always works out, but yeah.
Anyways, Jolene and the crew don't want none of that shit, so they try to beat the shit out of him. Jotaro shows up.
He's back.
He's back. He has recovered from all the stuff in the first half of Part 6. And he's here. The cool music from the Part 3 anime is playing. Fucking Star Platinum is here to Ora Ora. And long story short, Jotaro kind of
eats it. I mean,
jobs like a fucking punk,
like every old JoJo protagonist showing up in a later JoJo part. He cannot do too much less.
Yeah, so he's so in many ways, yeah. So Jotaro kind of goes out like a chump, but he tries his best. He has some pretty good plays, but also, like, there are parts of this final fight where Jotaro's facing off against Pucci where I go, man, this sure is the guy who was nearly killed by a rat with a machine gun back in GLORIO.
Did he just get power crept? Is that
kind of?
Yeah.
But also, there's a very pivotal moment that happens here towards the end that what I kind of want to get into is, like, in terms of our relationship with this anime, is like Part 6 has existed for a very long time, and thus it has been easy to absorb a lot of cultural osmosis about this part and the role its characters play.
Yeah.
And also, but because at least I personally never, like, read the work myself, means that I sort of went into this with, like, not expectations, but, like, certain ideas about how this part played out because of how people talk about Part 6 in discourse, right?
Yeah.
And one of the most infamous things that gets said in the fandom is that some people feel that Jotaro gets kind of treated like shit in Part 6, that he's kind of a dipshit and he fucks everything up at the end. And having not knowing the details of this, it's not that I expected those claims to be 100% true, but it's more like because JoJo had established a precedent that, whenever an old JoJo comes back, they're kind of less competent than when they were the protagonist. I was sort of ready to at least accept that could be a believable premise. And then I actually watched the events, and it's like, no, like, it actually makes complete sense how it goes down. But basically what happens is the entire crew basically works together to set up one single moment. Because Made in Heaven Stand is the ability to accelerate time, what this means is that Pucci essentially has the powers of the Flash, right? To everybody else's perception, he is moving at a hyper-accelerated speed. And so every member of the Jolene crew sort of, like, plays their role to set up one pivotal moment where Pucci will be caught vulnerable just long enough for Jotaro to land the killing blow with Star Platinum. They set it up, it works almost until Jotaro, when he is in his time freeze with, Star Platinum, realizes that Pucci is about to land a killing blow on Jolene. And thus, Jotaro must decide whether to finish off Pucci at the cost of his daughter's life or save her and allow Pucci to escape. And if you know JoJo's, if you know the Joestars, this is the most predictable series of actions you could possibly imagine. So yes, Jotaro relents, does not finish off Pucci, and instead uses his last remaining action to save Jolene's life at the cost of his own. And I see a lot of armchair critics go like, man, Jotaro sure was an idiot. He could have finished off Pucci right then and there. And it's like, have you watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
Yeah, no, I mean, even I know that makes perfect sense. Like, in the little bit of JoJo that I've watched, like, yeah, no, that checks out. Yeah.
Every Joestar is a self-sacrificial fucking himbo lunk this is who they all are to a fault. Like, it's...
Yep.
Right. Yes. So Pucci escapes, and they basically the whole party falls one by one, right? Is how I'd put it. And the only one, Jolene gives her life to allow Emporio El Nino to escape. The little boy whose power is the ghost room. He escapes in time for the universal reset to happen. So the universe resets. They're back to how it was at the start of part 6, but only Emporio and Pucci really remember what's going on. And Pucci is like, well, I need to kill you because you got away and you know what's going on and you might do something. And Emporio, after a chase, uses the last remnants of a weather report, because the weather report has extracted his stand power into a disc upon his death. And so Emporio takes the power of weather report and, is able to defeat Pucci with it.
Yeah, because basically Emporio's stand is kind of useless. Like, it's not, like, this is not even a, like, Koichi can do some really sick shit with echoes when he tries situation. Emporio's stand is, like, kind of fundamentally one of the most useless stands.
He can summon ghost objects, which really just means he has a fanny pack with useful items inside.
He basically has a bag of holding, but it only has like 7 items made in the year 1996, and also they don't replenish.
Right.
So like he has a gun. He just straight up has a pistol in that bag of holding, but it's not like a replenishing pistol. It has 6 bullets, and when he drops it, he loses the gun forever.
Right.
So he's even worse than the guy from High Card. We'll get to that.
Right.
Yes.
But he has been mission control sort of the whole show. He's helped everybody because he has a computer. He's got a ghost computer that he can find information. And so, he saved Jolene's life at the very beginning of part 6. And she believes in him, and Emporio is finally able to defeat Pucci using the power of weather report, just as the universe resets once again, a second time, this time without the influence of Pucci, trying to keep everything, trying to enforce predestination upon everyone. And so the end of JoJo, asterisk, is that Emporio wakes up in roughly the beginning of part 6, just in a new universe where none of all of that happened, and just meets new, different versions of all the characters who now can live happy lives, not fighting for survival in Green Dolphin State Prison.
But also, Emporio will forever be burdened with the knowledge of being
the only
person to know that he exists in a third new universe.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And then they play roundabout.
And then they do, yes.
They play roundabout.
That's good.
What do you got, like, opinion-wise? What did you guys think of all of this? Like,
I really like the big picture moments of part 6. I think in many ways it makes a lot of sense that Araki would decide to do this because in many ways the JoJo timeline was beginning to get bloated. And in some regards this was also kind of Araki's fault for insisting on bringing back like Dio in some form every time. So he's not entirely blameless here, but I think he also recognizes that he had created something that was beginning to unravel and found a pretty, what I think is a cool way to do a universal reset. And in many ways it is a bittersweet ending, right? Because like Pucci's whole deal is that he believes that the world is predestined, right? That there is fate that none can escape from, right? And the fact that Emporio meets alternate universe versions of the entire cast at the end of part 6 almost suggests that, at least to a certain extent, Pucci may have had a point, right? But the fact that these versions are not in prison and are not fighting for their lives against a diabolical priest also tells you that, like, things are not set in stone, right? That that maybe these characters are fated to endure certain trials or face certain things, or maybe they are fated to be certain types of people. Like, they make it very clear that, like, when they introduce the alternate universe Jolene Joestar, she's complete with the birthmark and everything. This version is not like a hard-talking criminal, but she is still a fundamentally good, compassionate person, like all Joestars are. And
right.
it's a, like, the heroes, they stop Pucci from creating his vision of a perfect world locked in eternal stasis, but at the cost of their entire universe.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Fucking pretty sure Josuke and Giorno are still alive at this point in part 6. They just don't exist anymore. Or at least the version of them that we know. And I don't know, it's cool, but yeah, I think I also do feel not cold necessarily. I really do like how it all wraps up, but also, and this is like, I don't mean to like play too much into the like, the so-called identity politics angle of this, but in all likelihood, Araki's like 62 at this point. Like, we don't know how many more JoJo parts he likely has left in him, which means Jolene will probably go down in history as the only female JoJo. She kind of doesn't really get her big moment at the end of part 6. Like, she lands a really important, like, hit on Pucci before the universe resets, and her actions are pivotal to allowing Emporio to escape to the next universe. But she kind of doesn't even like go out in like a blaze of glory. Like, the last we see of her is just like, I'm going to stay behind and do one last desperate ora against Pucci. And it doesn't even seem like it actually slowed him down that much, Right. Like, the last we ever see of her, right, is just, it seems like a fruitless, just rapid punch, exchange. And I don't know, it's just a little unfortunate, Like, like the actual events, I don't mind. I kind of like that at the end of the day. Like, yeah, like, a lot of big sacrifices had to happen to even stop Pucci, but they couldn't prevent the universal reset. But I think it would have been nice if Jolene at least got like her one big cool moment, the way Jotaro has, the way Josuke and Giorno have. Like, every JoJo has had that moment where it's like, back against the corner, just villain about to, finish them off, and they kind of show what they're made of. And I don't know if Jolene ever really gets that moment. And some of that is because Jotaro is there to sort of take up the spotlight.
That moment's probably the Mobius strip thing.
Yeah, the Mobius strip is insane. Is a really good moment.
Don't
but like,
know if we can get into that.
No, we got to keep moving. But yeah, so I'll just say broadly, I like part 6 in the big picture sense, but I think there are smaller picture things about it that I wish had simply played out a little differently.
Yeah. Well,
what I sort of find interesting is that, like we were talking about, this is the end, sort of the end of JoJo, and it's like, I would say the vast majority of the Western JoJo fandom, even the old heads, did not learn or experience JoJo until after this was, like, until many years after parts 1 through 6 had ended and Steel Ball Run was happening, right? And so it's kind of interesting that, yes, it has ran its course. JoJo got an anime, this anime that ran for 10 years that covered the whole story, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, it did it. It got its thing.
We did it.
We're done now. Asterisk. But yeah.
When you guys say like it's like, I guess I don't know the whole context of when you're saying it's done, but like
there are more parts to JoJo.
I know there are more parts, right?
But they are in a different timeline, right?
I mean, they take place in the new timeline,
right?
Like established at the end of part 6.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
so they're not connected. They're not connected really. It's a reboot,
right? So all the stuff that we know that like your average person knows JoJo as is over, right? But yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll probably still make anime of the rest of it, right?
Give it probably not for a long time. I don't think.
Maybe.
I think it will be as many, at least several years until that happens.
I say maybe because I will not spoil what goes on in part 7 specifically. I have not read it myself. I probably plan to soon now that I finished part 6, but part 7 heavily involves horses and horseback riding.
Okay.
And as we all know, thanks to the hit anime and 2015, 16, 17, I don't remember, anime of the year, Shirobako.
Probably 15?
Animating horses is really, really hard.
Well, now you got like CG for that now, right?
Ooh,
please don't do CG. I can't have a redo of Golden Kamui here.
Yeah.
All right.
We cannot have CG horses.
Anyway, that's JoJo. It's over. It's over.
No.
It's been been here the whole time the blog's been here too. So it's like,
yeah, I mean that's a big. I mean, that was the second. Like I think part 1 was the second season of the GLORIO blog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and here we are, 40 something seasons later, whatever.
Yeah.
So
I know we need to move on. So let me get my one last snipe in. I think it is criminal that part 6 has gotten so little fanfare that part 6's ending has gotten so little fanfare, and I lay that entirely at Netflix's feet.
Yep.
Yes. Absolutely. Anything that goes on Netflix dies in anime discourse, at least on the internet. Yeah. It just that doesn't matter how big the series is. The only thing that maybe
they do the thing in the last episode. They remix the OP in the last episode. They do the JoJo thing, and I didn't see anyone talking about it.
Yep. Thanks, Netflix. Thanks.
Alrighty.
All right. Let's move on. So, new show we threw on here. So, full disclosure, I dropped the Magical Revolution Girls show, whatever thing, as I didn't watch anymore. But
you picked up a new one.
I checked this one out because I've been hearing things about it. And Peter, you mentioned you've watched it.
Yep.
And it is so the show we're talking about, and this is a hell of a title here. The English title, and Endo and Kobayashi Live, for the latest on Tsundere, Villainess, Lieselotte. It's certainly an interesting concept. I watched the first episode. Peter, have you caught up with it all?
Yeah, I caught up with it earlier today.
Okay, so the concept is, you've got your Otome game with the villainess in it, and there's this guy and a girl in the broadcasting club, and they want to practice their broadcasting, so they play this Otome game to like basically do like sports announcer style commentary over the game while they're playing. And it turns out that they can magically communicate that the prince in the game can hear them when they're giving their commentary, and he thinks they're like some divine beings speaking to him. And so they realize they can have some influence or control to change the game, and they want to save the villainess because she's a cute tsundere lady. And it's actually a pretty fun concept. I mean, I've only watched the one episode, so Peter, I'll turn it over to you in a second. there's layers to it because there's like the relationship in the game, and then there's like Endo and Kobayashi themselves. They've got something going on, and I'll point out they are not isekai'd. They are in the real world playing the game still, but they can communicate through the game to the prince basically. But I mean, having watched more of it, what have you been liking it, Peter?
So I am still really enjoying it. That being said, I'm also kind of disappointed that they're not going harder in the commentary aspect, because after a few episodes, the commentary stuff is sort of relegated to the just, hey, look, she's a Tsundere, like just pointing it out, and that is kind of the joke. Like they do still give advice to the prince. But yeah, I feel like they could have done more with the commentary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of got that impression in the first episode where I was a little worried that they weren't going to make this like, because I mean that is a great hook for some like real silly comedy, right? Like, and just I'd love to just see the the actors like really hamming it up on that and everything, and that's a little disappointing to hear that maybe they're not going that way with the rest of it. But
yeah, because like there's a couple of later episodes that spend a bit more time in the real world with Endo and Kobayashi, like just in school or hanging out or whatever. Like, because obviously, yeah, they do have something going on. They are becoming more of a couple, and there's also a third person who may or may not have some influence over the game, question mark.
Yeah, I saw that like at the end of episode 1, they show some like actor guy or something that was also playing the game, right?
Yeah,
Is he like trying to work against them or something? Is that the angle
they haven't really explained that yet, but he did show up again in like not the most recent episode, the episode before.
Oh, really? Because we're like halfway through now, and they haven't.
Yeah, I know that's kind of the thing. Like they've not really explained what's going on there yet. But yeah, like the thing with the saving the villainess is like she's got like a witch inside her or something that could like destroy the world, and so they've got to try and make sure that the prince and the villainess actually fall in love properly, so that the witch doesn't get to use the villainess's emotions to blow up the world or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been a lot like the third guy whose name I can't remember. There's been a few moments where it seems like there's someone like some of the characters in the game sort of half mentioned that they've done this all before, but like it's sort of brushed off. There's also some like I mean, obviously the fact that this is happening at all means there's some magic going on, because like I think in episode 2 they talk about how they can't create another save file, and the save file that they've got has got some like,
and they can't turn off autoplay, right? Like it's just yeah.
And they also can't even start the game when both of them aren't there. And there's some weird stuff going on. But like generally speaking, like it's still fun. Like I'm enjoying the show as like a sort of a standard villainous show.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do apparently. But yeah, I feel like I'd like them to do more of the commentary stuff. I mean, they even like, I mean, the most recent episode, like half of the episode is in a school because they're actually doing commentary on an actual sports game. Like they're doing a basketball game, and how they've got really good at it because they've been practicing with the game, with the Automata game. But I'm like, couldn't you have done more of this actually on the game?
Right, the actual like main thing, yeah.
Stuck to the premise of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of, in general, I was kind of surprised how much like real world stuff is still happening, right? Like splitting their time between that and the game world. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought the first episode was fun. I agree. I feel like they could have taken it to another level. So, you know, I don't know if I might give it another episode or two here, but we'll see. But you know, if Peter, you're sticking with it at this point. I mean, you're halfway through. You're committed. You're committed. So I guess we'll see how that goes.
I know that the light novel that it's based off is finished. Like there was only 3 volumes. Well, there was 2 volumes in an EX volume.
Okay. So that does help actually. If there's an actual ending.
Yeah,
they actually stick to the ending and not, you know, set up for more anime. So that is encouraging. That's always good to hear. So
yeah, the manga's still ongoing, but I guess that's probably just based off the light novel. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Let's move to NieR Automata version 1.1a is back.
It's back.
It's back.
We got fully back. We had 2 more episodes covering some big plot moments from the game.
Yeah.
The first one it's just in a way. The first one we had the going to the amusement park.
Yep.
Which to me was one of my favorite moments of the game. That was I think when it hit me that was a very good video game and something special was like when you're riding on the roller coasters and like in the 2D fight. The music the music in that whole section is probably one of my favorite stretches of music from like the amusement park into the boss fight.
Oh, it goes hard.
I was like, yeah, you know what? This is actually something special going on here in the game. In the anime,
it's all right.
They make a pragmatic choice here, and I think that honestly, I think it's kind of fun. It'll be fun to kind of talk about these 2 episodes in concert with each other.
Yeah,
because
I'll just say real quick for the second episode is we finally go to the Pascal's village, right? The machine village, right? So those are kind of the 2 big things that happened. But yeah, go ahead.
Because the first episode where we fight, not we fight. I'm thinking of this as me playing the video game.
We as the audience,
they battle the songstress Simone de Beauvoir, right?
Yes, where 2B and 9S confront Simone, the songstress robot, and
they play beautiful song.
And they unfortunately have to skip basically all of the amusement park to get to the fight.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of reminder that like, oh right, like this is sort of the things we were talking about before this anime aired, right? Of like, how can you adapt this source material? Because as you were just saying, Jill, so much of the memory associated with this part of the game is in like walking around the park, seeing the clown robots, you know, throwing the confetti and dancing, you know, riding on the roller coasters.
Yeah. And you just can't recreate that. No matter how good your anime is, you can't recreate that in an anime. Yeah.
And it's funny, so they don't even try, right? They just they arrive at the gates and then they just go directly to confront Simone. And the fight is, I mean, compared to the Atom fight, I would say in terms of actual action, this is a pretty good take on this boss fight, right? It's a pretty faithful take on the boss fight, you know,
other than the CG on the boss being kind of dicey, but the choreo, like the actual like action choreography and everything was very good.
Yeah. And so as a result, it's impressive, but it's impressive because it's just reminding us of all the things we liked about the video game.
Yeah.
And as a result,
play the song.
Play the good song, right? Say the words, right? And so I think this first episode of the 2 is fine, but I wouldn't necessarily call it like outstanding because as we say, right, it is mostly just adapting the events of the game.
Yeah. I do think I do think when they take their creative liberties, like with like NieR's hacking and stuff like that. I think that was fine.
Right.
That was appropriate interpretation.
In general, I think the stuff with NieR's hacking has been some of the best material in the anime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's like the most original, where they're really taking their creative license,
yeah.
right?
Like that's actually kind of that's kind of the point I was going to get to, is like, and so as a result, the most notable parts of that episode are the parts that are anime original, right? Like, it is the performance at the beginning where you see the robots doing their play. It is the part at the end where NieR kills a robot mother and child in cold blood after his like very traumatic hacking experience, right? Like, it's all that stuff that like kind of stands out a lot more because we're not expecting it, because that stuff wasn't in the game. And
I think those are appropriate things to add. I think it matches the everything they're trying to do, right? So that's good.
Yeah. And I think as a result, it's the second of these two episodes that's really interesting.
Yeah. So the second episode, we do go to the machine village. We finally meet Pascal.
Yes.
And
good boy Pascal.
Yes, Dust Boy.
The pacifist robot who has decided that instead of fighting the endless war between machine life forms and the androids, they should just form the little commune and chill out.
And it's anime original, but they kind of get the same points across at first, and then I don't remember them worshiping Emil. Did I miss that?
No, that's new.
This is the swerve at the end, right? Is where, because Iro and I guess, being the people we are who probably have obsessively remembered details about the NieR Automata.
You so more so than I.
Definitely noticed, like, right out the gate, like, hold on a second, like, the robot village isn't next to the mall. Emil was nowhere to be found at the mall, right? Like,
yeah.
And it all kind of adds up to the sort of the shoe drop of, I guess Emil, like, I guess we're not going to get Tuk Tuk Emil or something. We're not going to get Merchant Emil singing the song.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get imprisoned tree spirit Emil, right. I guess.
It's like we sort of discussed Emil in the context of the game. Emil is almost exclusively a fan service thing of, hey, remember the first NieR game.
And he has like no story significance. I don't think he.
Basically none. There's some there's side quest stuff that's mostly referencing
everything he did important was like prior to this, right?
In the backstory. And so in a adaptation of NieR Automata, if you want to sort of gun the main story, there's not really room to have Emil be there in a meaningful capacity. Like it would be needless screen time. And so having him just here hanging out in this tree in a sort of non-important yet important role, and having the quick flashback to all your buddies from NieR 1.
Gotta get Kanye out on screen and
and Vice and whatnot. It felt like it lets you hit all the same beats as his long side quests in the game really quickly. And go, hey, it's Emil, it's Emil, and let's move
play
on.
Emil's theme. Everybody cry.
Play the song,
the original Emil theme. So it's kind of that's kind of interesting to have that and tying it in. Go ahead.
And I think the most interesting thing of all then is how it all ties together in how they tie it all together in the anime, which is that in the anime's version of events, we discover, at least in this timeline, that Emil is the one who is responsible for imbuing Pascal with his brand of pacifism. Right. Because we get this rather lengthy Pascal flashback that, confirms that, stuff that we all kind of assumed in the game, is that Pascal was fighting in the android machine war for a very, very long time.
Right.
And that meeting Emil by pure chance imbued him with the spark of pacifism and self-preservation. And it's sort of an interesting choice because Pascal and Emil don't interact at all in the game, but the anime almost decides that actually, wouldn't these two characters actually, wouldn't it be really interesting if these two characters met in some form?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a wild divergence from the themes or anything, right? It's kind of makes sense. Even if it didn't happen in the game.
And yeah, it kind of makes for an interesting choice and an interesting, I guess, it gives interesting insight, I guess, into Pascal's character, at least in this version of the story. And again, this is the stuff that excites me the most about this anime. I want to see more and more of twist and bend and mold this version of NieR Automata. Please keep doing this. This is the most interesting thing you could do with this anime.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's I'm glad it's back because it's kind of a fun trip. Still don't think anybody who didn't play the game would really care, but but I'm glad if they're gonna do it, because again, if they just recreated it, then who are you gonna appeal to with it? So it's nice that for those of us who did play, we have some reason to watch it. And I do wonder, part of me is did they want to just squeeze in references to the original game or whatever? And we did have that one thing a couple episodes ago when one of 9S is hacking and he saw the the tribe from the first game, right? The
Kingdom of Facade.
Yeah. Way more straight up NieR references than I would have expected.
Yeah,
for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you know what? Shout outs to Emil showing up in the puppet show.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Yes.
If he can't get any spoken lines in the show itself, then at least he can show up in the post credits.
Yeah.
Puppet show is still great. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's get back into our regularly scheduled anime. Well, I guess NieR was our regular scheduled anime, but yes.
Oh boy.
What's going on with Vinland Saga?
Oh, they got a horse. They did it. They needed a horse. They got a horse.
They got the horse.
Thorfinn and Einar try. It's really hard to pull tree stumps out of the ground with manpower. They need horsepower, and Indeed. So one of the old farmers farming the land, who appears to just be a regular old tenant farmer, this crotchety old man, lends them a horse and farming tools to work with if they do chores for him. And they discover that this crotchety old man is the father of their owner. He is, in a way, the most important person on the farm. Right.
But rather than retire in the lap of luxury on his estate, he has decided to return to farming the land with his own two hands.
He has his own shitty little field that he does that he insists on doing personally.
Right. We have a scene where Kettle, the current patriarch of the family, his son, is like, "Dad, can you just come back home? It's kind of a hassle to have you out here,
Yeah.
And sort of the point of Kettle's father, whose name I believe is
Sverkel.
Severical, something like that. Look, we're not experts on Norse pronunciation. Severical is, in a small way, a revolutionary thinker in the context of medieval Europe, because again, he is, by association, yes, as Eero said, literally one of the most important people on this land, and he treats Einar and Thorfinn to a meal after a day of hard labor, and they're caught very off guard by this, right? Being slaves, right? And Severical says that he has this simple line that I think to all of us would feel very redundant and self-explanatory, but for the context of its time is sort of pretty out there. He says that men who work deserve to eat. And for his time, it's a very egalitarian mindset.
Also, the line oft parroted in anime is those who do not work do not deserve to eat, right? And so he said, those who worked deserve to eat. Instead of admonishing, right? It's It's like
right. It
acknowledges their humanity instead, right?
It's flipping it into a positive instead of a negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they, thanks to the help of the old man, they managed to till the land and plant seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very good because Thorfinn, our fucking traumatized robot Viking child soldier, is like reacting to all these mundane things with an almost like childlike glee and curiosity. Like,
how does this turn to bread? I don't understand.
Yeah, like he sees the sprouts of their wheat, coming through the dirt for the first time, and he's like, "Oh my god, Einar, look! The seeds are plants now."
It's so strange.
But in many ways, right? It's like, I mean, Einar jokes that like Thorfinn is kind of like an infant, right? And it's sort of, it's a little on the nose, right? But the birth of the growth of the plants is sort of meant to represent the rebirth of Thorfinn as a human being, right?
Right.
Like this individual who has known nothing but violence and hardship is beginning to appreciate, the things in life that he just never knew existed.
Of doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's like the whole point of this right now, right? Like the current state of the story. Yeah.
Yep. And
then the second episode happens.
Yep.
Where
to remind you that slavery bad and that slaves have a shitty life.
Yep.
Because Master Ketil's son, Thorgil, returns home after being out and about fighting in war. So he's this big, muscly warrior man.
The kind of guy that would show up in season 1.
Yeah. And, is hooting and hollering and talking about how many people he's killed and bragging about all that, and make sure to bring up how to the younger son, don't you know about how much our father got up to back then? Old Iron Fist Ketil and his many battlefield exploits. Wasn't he was so cool, I wanted to be just like him. That's why I became a sick warrior who kills people.
And sort of the plot of this episode that sort of begins to, the theme of this episode becomes clear when a couple of, I don't think they are slaves at this point. They are, I rewatched the episode.
They're tenant farmers, right? Or they're the children of a tenant farmer.
They are 2 children of a tenant farmer family that works Ketil's land have been caught stealing flour from the storehouses. They're like 10 and 12 respectively, like at most.
Yeah.
And, being caught, they need to be punished. And it's up to Ketil to decide the punishment, right?
As the master, right?
As the master of the land, it is his right, it is his obligation. And we begin to immediately see Ketil start sweating.
Right.
And the long and short of it is Thorgil is on one end of the spectrum being like, well, let's just cut off their arms. That's the punishment for thievery, isn't it? And, the more compassionate option put forth by Pater, who is a freedman, a former slave who has earned his freedom and works for Ketil, suggests that we turn the other cheek and we merely put them into indentured servitude until they've paid off their debt, right? But we still got to send a message, so we need to beat them ruthlessly with sticks, at the very least. Like, we can't like dismember them. That would reduce their value.
That would kill them, effectively.
Oh, we need to still send a message. And so they all turn to Ketil. Like, so Ketil, how many times should we beat these kids?
Right.
And
he is uncomfortable with punishing them at all.
Yes, it's very clear that Ketil does not want to be the hard man that everyone expects him to be. And this is sort of where it gets kind of interesting, where I think long even before the Megalobox 2 creators said the words toxic masculinity in an anime interview, I think Vinland Saga was sort of playing with this idea, right? Of like, everybody expects Ketil to be the hard man who, runs this place as
famous
the
Iron
taskmaster.
Fist Ketil.
Yeah. And you can see he is like hesitant throughout this whole thing. Like, he does not want these children to be beat. And you almost feel that pang of sympathy of like, damn, you know, like it sure sucks to have to sentence some kids to being brutally beaten. On the other hand, he still sentences these kids to get brutally beaten.
Right. It sort of gets into like, no matter in which contexts or periods this guy might be show compassion for fellow man, like ultimately he's still a slave owner, and he's also constrained by the societal expectations of the time,
right?
Like to this extent, right?
Right.
He is a product of his society, and that is not to. And I'm very sure the show does not excuse that. It does not absolve him of his actions, but it lends a very sympathetic ear, or you know, to the reality that many people in this society are beholden to the expectations of the world.
I mean, that's why it's interesting, because it's not just like a black and white.
It's not black and white.
Right? Yeah.
But also, the show makes it clear that Kettle is not the man who is brave enough to fight back against those societal expectations, and that it's going to take a truly brave, truly driven individual to look at the state of this world and say, "I refuse to let this continue." And who can say who that person might be?
I wonder.
Yes, but yeah, it's good. I'm enjoying it a lot because like the I suppose depth of characterization and whatnot is nice to see.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not watching this,
because you'd have to watch all season 1. Right?
I guess maybe because at this point I'm pretty far behind. But I mean, like this is like our one like unequivocally good show this season, right?
We're like enjoying every week.
Like there are other things I'm enjoying, but it's so like I don't know why I'm not watching this, but that sounds very good.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is I think in a lot of ways, right, like it's because you have to go through season 1. And here's the thing, I love season 1. I mean, I love the early parts of Vinland Saga, but like it is a thing you can't really skip because you need the context of who these people were or are, right? Like Thorgil showing up, you know, the elder son showing up in the latest episode, he feels like a character out of season 1, but in the new context, that makes him feel uncomfortable and antagonistic. Like Thorgil feels like the type of character who would have been like a cool like side character in season 1. Like, oh, there's Thorgil. Look at him just chopping up those Englishmen, right? And now you're like, ooh, that guy is
messed up.
And I mean that sounds really good to me. Like that sounds like they're doing their job, great. Right? Yeah. Right. So like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very well done.
It's good.
Yeah. Maybe someday. Okay, let's talk about BOFURI. I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max up my defense. Season 2. Not too much to say about this because they have gone on COVID hiatus.
Oh dear.
There was one episode since we last talked.
I guess increasing your defense doesn't increase your status ailment resistance.
Oh no, that's Maple's biggest weakness, actually. But yeah. So there was one episode. They're kind of on this mini arc where everybody gets their pet thing because that was the hot new release. Is you can now get a pet monster. And the one episode they had was like focused on the other characters in the guild, which they very rarely do, other than like the one samurai girl, aside from the main girls. And so this episode was almost entirely focused on the side characters getting their Pokemon, and they're not terribly interesting characters. So just like I don't know, it felt a bit of like kind of a throwaway episode, but
well, you know,
Peter, you are the first person to ever get on the podcast that has also watched BOFURI. I don't know if you're totally caught up, but I don't know how you've been enjoying it.
I'm one episode behind. I haven't watched the latest episode yet.
Okay.
I think
any general feeling on season 2 so far?
I mean, I do feel like they're spending a bit more time with other characters this season, just generally.
Yeah.
Because like season 1 felt like it was, well, Maple's getting more OP every episode. And then there's like the big fight at the end. Season 2 seems to actually spend time with different characters. Not just the Samurai Girl, just like in general. Maybe that's just me. I don't know, but it's also interesting that the art style keeps changing with the when they're in particularly when maybe in the like mech form, like the art style seems to take a big shift.
Yeah, in general, like I've talked about this before, so I don't want to get too much into it. But I think just the fact that there's nonstop action means it's kind of hit and miss on consistency sometimes. And I will say, this latest episode, I know you haven't seen it, but it looks pretty bad. Like I think they were leading that, if they had to go on hiatus, I think they were maybe just starting to have problems with this episode. And then, but yeah, there's some kind of weird inconsistencies on the style, like you mentioned, like on the mech and stuff, which is a bit weird. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes when it comes back, and if and when it comes back. If NieR came back, BOFURI can come back, right? So,
yeah, they do seem to be spending a bit more time this season, also just trying to find ways to nerf Maple as well.
Yeah, we have seen a lot more dev conversations, I think, with the weird developer avatars or whatever talking about how to stop Maple. Yeah. But yeah, they did. Yeah, it's a fun show though, still fun, and hopefully it comes back soon. All right, we're gonna try to keep things moving here, so it's gonna be a long one. But let's talk about Tomo-chan as a girl. Anything exciting happened in these last two episodes?
Is Tomo-chan still a girl?
Yes, she is.
Well, we can't do that we can't do that.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I guess, like, I don't know. I mean, we can keep this short, honestly. I mean, unless Peter has any thoughts they would like to, like, really get into with Tomo-chan. But at least in terms of these two episodes specifically, the first is, like, a flashback to, like, their childhood, basically, like, when Tomo and June first met, and kind of, like, shows the catalyst of, like, their friendship, and eventually why, like, June ends up, like, looking up to Tomo so much, right? And, like, it's this aspect of, like, to June, Tomo is almost an aspirational figure as much as she is a friend and maybe, a source of attraction. And I guess they're trying to, like, I think they're trying to, like, do the thing of, like, this is why June is, like, conflicted about, like, opening up to Tomo about them becoming a couple is because, like, she's his best friend and she's someone he's attracted to, but also she's someone he really, like, looks up to and wants to aspire to be, because I guess the idea is that June as a kid was, I don't know, like a sickly gamer nerd, I guess, like, and that it was only through Tomo's influence that he became the karate Giga Chad he is now, I guess. Right. So there's that, and then the second of these episodes sort of introduces, like, this weird hackneyed drama of, like, there's, like, a group of, like, local stereotypical delinquents, like the kind of dudes that, like, Kiryu would beat up on the street, like, on the regular. And, like, Tomo beat them up once and they want to get revenge, but they're like, damn, we can't beat her in a fight, she's too strong. I know, we'll kidnap her two female friends. And it's like, I don't know, this show ain't really the show to...
Yeah, it seems like a stretch for the scope of the show.
Amp up the stakes like this, and it kind of doesn't, because eventually it still ends up being a comical bit, because, like,
It's not like she has to go storm their hideout, right? Like,
no, because it's like, they, just, whatever, eventually
drop
Junichiro...
kick somebody out of a bathroom window.
Yeah, basically. June and Tomo eventually show up, beat up all the bad guys, and save the girls. And, it's
yeah,
I don't know, man.
The train keeps rolling, huh? Yeah,
it keeps going, I guess. Yeah, that's all there is to say.
Yeah. Peter, because you're watching this one too, do you have any other thoughts or feelings on it?
There is maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's starting to feel like, so when I watched episode like 1 and 2, I tweeted out a thing that was like, I hope that like Gundo's my favorite character, and like cause she's just messing with them all the time, and it's great. And I'm like, I hope that Gundo doesn't do what I'm half expecting most anime do, where she ends up also getting feelings for main guy Junichiro, and then like the next episode is like, oh yeah, they used to go out, and I was like, oh right, okay. But now, and I again might be reading too much into it, it almost feels like Gundo's getting feelings for Tomo, and I'm like, they're actually like going full triangle in like all directions now.
I can see that read, yeah. Like, I'm not sure. I mean, okay, so the reality is, look, we are talking about like a Japanese piece of fiction, so like we probably shouldn't get our hopes up here. But I do think there's definitely an aspect of like Gundo is very, if nothing else, a little protective, maybe bordering on possessive of Tomo, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that Tomo and June realizing their affections for each other, in some ways she feels like that is a threat to her current social dynamic with Tomo.
If you catch feelings for your ex's crush, is that still a triangle, or do we need a new shape? Like a, I don't even know what you'd call that, but yeah.
The love L, I guess. Is it a love T?
I don't know.
Is it a love three-way intersection?
Oh my goodness.
We'll have to workshop this another time.
Y junction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I guess that is. I guess that's better than her falling for the main guy again or something. I don't know, but
yeah, I think that's kind of what why I'm sort of hoping for that. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'd rather that than just like competing with Tomo for Junichiro again.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I feel like that whole thing's been played out too much.
Or just avoid the triangle at all. But yeah, if you got to go somewhere, that's more interesting. All right. Well, let's talk about buddy daddies. Here we go.
Still on it.
How are the buddy daddies?
I'll try to keep this as tight as possible, but I do have things to say. As expected, we have gotten to the tragic backstories of these past 2 episodes. So each buddy daddy got a backstory episode.
Okay. About how they became hitmen.
Well, kind of. So I'll give them credit for a couple things. One, I do feel like they've given us at least some indication as to why. You remember last time I was talking about why are they these just like normal nice dudes, not just quitting the game and just
being buddy daddies,
being buddy daddies, and they give some reason why, which I'll get into in a second. And I also want to give them credit for, despite all of this happening in the past throughout the course of these 2 episodes, they still do a good job of preserving the core good part of the show, which is the family, the buddy daddies and their daughter. And I've come to really like them and believe their relationship feels believable. And I think especially the thing I've noticed with the main guys is like, yeah, they kind of fit like kind of stereotypical anime character guys, but they're more honest and self-aware about it. Like, and they have like good days and bad days and different emotions and things. They're not just like, one of these episodes felt very similar to one of the episodes of High Card, which we'll talk about. And that show is very much cardboard cutout characters. Yeah. And I think that the contrast between the two is very evident where, you know, the characters in Buddy Daddies actually feel like they have real like emotions and stuff. Right. And I think they've done a good job with that. And, you know, that's enough. That's been enough to carry me through where I feel like I'm actually enjoying the show. Like, because the core is good. You know, the core is good with our buddy daddies and their daughter, and everybody loves each other and they're supporting each other. Now,
yes.
Let's get into the tragic backstories. It just does not mesh with the absolute like ridiculous melodramatic absurd things that happen with their backstories. So like the first one is the blonde guy. We find out we still don't know why he is a hitman, because apparently he was a hitman prior to these things happening, but apparently he had a wife that was pregnant.
Oh no.
And she died in a horrible explosion because she happened to show up. I don't know if she didn't know he was a hitman, and she saw him chasing some guy
during the hit,
and the car that he was in like spun out into like an oil tanker or something and exploded.
Oh my god.
Well done, 47.
That's how she died. And if you guys remember, like in the first episode, he was like putting his money aside every time he got paid by the handler guy, and he was saying, "Give it to her." The her was his sister-in-law, I guess. His wife's younger sister. And so in this episode, he gets fed up with having to do all the chores and all the work around the house, while the other guy and the little girl just sit around playing video games all day. And so he just like takes the day off and goes wandering around, and he runs into his sister-in-law who's been trying to find him. And, they kind of talk things out and everything. And, by the end of the episode, he hasn't been answering his phone, and then he realizes, I've got all these messages, and he finds out that the little girl was sick and had to go to the hospital. And so, he goes and meets up with, his husband and his daughter, and they, he realizes, I have important things to live for now, and he's ready to move on with his life. It's fine.
Okay.
Like, it was fine.
Sure.
The bit with how his wife died and everything was preposterous, but
I mean, that's
that's
in
general.
That's why I laugh, right?
Yes. In general, though, like thematically, it was fine. It was like him moving past his trauma and everything. Sure. The second episode, we get into the dark hair guy's backstory,
the moody one.
Yeah, and this goes on like a whole nother level. So,
oh man,
he apparently is the heir to some like high-end assassin organization.
Right.
Of course.
And as he was finishing his training, he was like having doubts about wanting to be an assassin, and his dad let him basically take a leave and slum it with some low-end organization while he thinks it over, so long as he promised to come back someday. And so he's been hanging out in the minor leagues for a couple years, and that's how he met the other guy and got into this. So like the handler guy that we see at the cafe is like just like a low end handler out in the middle of nowhere. And so in this episode, his dad's calling him back to the major leagues. He's like, you've had enough. You've had enough time out there. It's time for you to join your rightful place as the heir of this.
Return to being a true assassin instead of merely a hitman.
Yeah, and
I thought you were going to say a fake assassin.
That would have been better. You're right.
And to seal the deal, he has to go kill his old mentor who has betrayed the family.
Of course,
classic.
It's all very dramatic and
there's some
just
John
like,
Wick shit.
Yeah, they do some gun fu.
So like,
actually,
go ahead.
Yeah. The fight was actually pretty well done. I'll give him that. Pretty well animated. But at the same time, like this is like in another context, this would be fine. I just don't feel like this is meshing with.
Right. My question on hearing this, because the previous one, I'm like, I see how this connects to the premise of they are buddy daddies. How does the second one really relate to the premise? Other than it's now he may have to go.
Yeah, so I mean that's the thing. He's supposed to be. They want you to feel like he's conflicted about what to do, whether he should come back or stay with his new family, and it's kind of a no-brainer, dude. So the setup in this episode is like it's his birthday, and they're like, "Oh, make sure you come home. We're totally not having a surprise party for you later." And he doesn't make it home until like really late because he has to go try to kill somebody, and he finally decides he wants to go home. But I guess the interesting part is the big takeaway from this is they kind of imply that if he doesn't come back, that they will kill his family. Because now they've become so really ultimately the reason why they can't quit is because they'll become a liability, and then they will be killed. So the episode actually ends with the handler guy, the guy with the glasses at the cafe, basically getting the order to take a hit out on the blonde guy and the little girl.
Yep.
And that's where the episode ends.
And so he'll have now to choose to protect his family.
Well, the guy kind of already made his choice in the episode, so now I think it's going to be how they get out of this mess.
Yeah.
Right.
And is that where the hardcore assassin will come in? What's their deal with him? I don't remember.
They'll probably have to fight him.
Yeah.
Because he's like the lapdog for his dad. And he does show up in this episode as the guy that like drives him to the his test assassination, and he's like, they paint him out to be a real creep. He has a little notebook, and he's like, "Oh, tell me what his last words are. I write down the last words," and that kind of comically goodness. And I'm like, it's not the show, man. Why couldn't they just like run a cafe or something, or I don't know. Give them some other job. It just doesn't. It's not work. They're not using that particular job.
In a lot of ways, it sounds like a lot of this is just a pretense to set up a conflict, right? Like the Moody One's backstory, his expectations to return to the family. Now the hit pulled on the blonde guy and the kid, right? It's like it's. I mean, how many episodes are left, right? Does this all feel like it is basically building up to what the final arc of this show?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're like episode 7 or something, so we have half the show left. So, are they going to have to go on the run? Are they going to have to take down the organization? What are they going to have to do? I don't know. Those are just questions. I don't want that from the show. It's just ultimately what it comes down to. Like, I want what we had last week with the trying to deliver lunch to her daycare, covertly or whatever. Like that's the good stuff. That's, what I want out of this. And, having some sort of dramatic, action movie plot line or whatever is just not what I want here. And that's kind of where we're moving, but I don't know. I like I said, I like the core of it enough. I think I'm committed. I'm willing to tough it out. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah. All right. Okay, then.
All right. Meanwhile,
over in Fordland.
Over
Fordland. Yeah.
High card.
Speaking of little sister plot lines.
Yeah.
I've kind of mixed up which episodes are which on this one in what order, but
there was
the first
cruise ship auction episode, and then
yeah. So
the sister and the hands getting stuck together is the second.
Now I feel like I've enjoyed these episodes more than the previous episodes, because these two episodes have been a little more let's have a doofy adventure that has no stakes.
I would agree. Like, I think that these two episodes, while not perfect, are much closer to the tone and style of what I want out of a story like High Card.
Yeah. I was saying to myself the whole time, like, they're so close. They're so close.
Yeah.
I think both episodes have their moments.
Yeah.
Like, they have their moments where I go, all right, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first one, you have, like, the ridiculous, what's his name, King, the ridiculous foppish, like, over-the-top, hammy dude.
The rival CEO.
Yeah.
Who's also trying to get his hands on the card.
Who, chews up a lot of that episode, and it's pretty good.
Then he turns out to not actually be evil, just a glamorous fop. Right, like...
Yeah.
I mean, the joke at the end of the
fighting
episode,
his bodyguards and everything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I think that episode's pretty solid, if it just from the perspective of, like, this is kind of what you want to see, right? Of like, we got to pull off a heist, right? So every member's got to play their role, right?
Yeah.
Like, VJ's doing he's turning a potato into vines. Wendy's got to seduce a dude. Finn's got to pickpocket a guy. Right? It's fun, right? It works. It's like, oh, this is the type of thing I want to see more of, right? And of course, the job doesn't go smoothly. There's a fight against a black guy with electric powers, which again, I guess even Japan is guilty of it.
Yes.
Of that trope, but
yeah,
I would say that episode is mostly just fine, right? In the end, the true villains abscond with the card. I really do love the payoff at the end of the episode with King, right? Because they've built up King as this foppish dickhead CEO this whole time, and at the very end, he's like, "Where's my lackey? Where the hell is he?" And the secretary is like, he took the day off. It's like parent-teacher conference or something. And King says well, even King cannot take away the rights granted to his workers.
Yeah, that was so good.
Damn, turns out he might be the best boss in this show.
Looks at the camera. That was very good. And then
workers' benefits.
Yeah. And then the second episode, it's okay, this is the kind of stupidity that
this is exactly what I wanted.
Right. Yeah. This is where we
they meet the girl who has a card, and her card is one of the lower powered ones because it lets her stick things together, and so of course she sticks two of their hands together. And we get a really good
walk around holding hands.
Oh no,
so good!
And we just get this really fun montage where she's working 10 jobs or just doing shit all over the city, and they are keep chasing her, right? And it's funny because it happens twice, and you're I see the joke, but then it keeps happening in different jobs, so many different contexts, which I think was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my only complaint about this episode, okay, all right. Iro and I keep bringing this up whenever we watch High Card. The hypothetical version of this episode, but it's Blood Blockade Battlefront, where Zap Renfro and Leo get their hands stuck to each other. You just know everybody would be making fun of them the whole time. Every other member of the cast would be shitting on them.
Yeah, right. They do a little bit. They do a little bit.
They do a little bit, right? VJ is there, and there is a throwaway line where Chris we can't let Wendy see that, or we can't.
The bartender guy giving them the drink with the two straws,
couples drink.
Yeah.
That's very good.
There's a little bit of it, yeah.
And but I wanted more, just the rest of the cast giving them shit for it, right?
And
that's sort of.
I do wish they didn't play the dying little sister card.
See, that's where that episode almost started to fall apart for me.
That's where they kind of lost me. We didn't have to go. We didn't have to go there. That was just
I think it barely turns around because at the end of the day, right? The kind of the quote unquote twist is that the girl with the card she's not a bad person, is she a little she's got a vibe, but she's not she's not a criminal, right? She is not.
I mean, you can kind of understand if somebody just came up and said, "Give me your card," you'd be like, "No."
You pepper spray them too, right?
Yeah, it's my card. Yeah,
she hasn't committed a crime with it,
right?
And I kind of liked that, right? I was in a lot of ways, this is the kind of episode, in the same way that, look, not every episode of Cowboy Bebop ended with Spike having to kill someone, right? And not every episode of Blood Blockade Battlefront ended with them having to fight a demon or something, right? Sometimes you just go on a weird adventure, right? And it doesn't end in a big fight. It just, it gets resolved a different way.
Yeah.
And I actually really appreciated that. And I really wish this show would just have more episodes like this one.
Yeah, and it probably
maybe with fewer dying sisters though.
Yeah.
I think the good outweighed the bad, so I would say so. It's just that there's always something keeping it from me just being this was a great episode, right?
It's also Finn has amnesia and a mysterious backstory.
Oh my god, right, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that one bit where they have to go back to Finn's apartment and they're just eating beans out of a can. And
that was really
what
good.
Is it again? Finn offers Chris a
salt.
a salt shaker, and he's just like, "Nah, I'm good."
Just things. It's not a salt shaker. It's just a bag of salt that he picks them up with a spoon.
Oh my god!
Just and it's like, right? Why are we eating cold tinned beans in your apartment? Can we just go to a cafe?
Yes, there's just so many other options.
Order pizza. I don't know. Like, it's comical. That was fun.
That was fun. So
yes,
if only it was always like this.
That show is creeping towards being what it should be.
Yeah.
Too slowly.
Yeah, I do think and hope that we get more of that now that the cast is generally introduced. But there's, again, we mentioned we've got amnesia backstories and things to cover.
Yes.
It's
if you insist on, like, in this type of show, like, I don't know, if you continuously insist on, like, we need drama with the characters' backstories, I'm like, you don't, though, if you just sell the adventures well enough.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And, the thing is, you can't have drama if you do decide to escalate the stakes. It's just that, like, it needs to be done appropriately, right? Like, again, I apologize we keep comparing it back to BBB, but, like, Leo does have some legitimate drama, right? Like, he's got his sister, right? There's the whole thing with, his ghost girlfriend. Like, he has some legitimate pathos to him, but it's also, like, centralized on his character, and he also doesn't let it overwhelm him, right? Like, yeah, sometimes he's worried about what his sister's up to, and then other days he's just trying to get lunch,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, Yasuhiro Naito's pretty good at writing fun adventures, huh?
We're just going to keep using that segue.
We're just going to keep using that. So,
all right.
We want to talk about Trigun Stampede.
Yeah, so let me just say before we get into it, I started watching episode 7. I got about halfway through and I was like, I can't do it anymore.
Oh man,
is that was the Wolfwood episode, right?
Yeah, I was like, I just can't do it anymore. It was still Wolfwood fighting.
They're stopping the train, the ship, I guess.
Yeah, so
and sand ship.
It became abundantly clear to me in this episode that this was not created for people who haven't watched Trigun. Like, whether they intended that way or not. As they were all, so it's a combination of that where it's like, I don't know these characters that well.
Right.
I don't care. They're desperately screaming at me to be emotionally invested.
Yeah.
Like cry, damn it, whatever. By the time we've gone through the another animated flashback of Wolfwood, and I can't even think of is it his brother? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, they were raised at the same
fellow orphan.
Yeah. For all intents and purposes, right? His brother. I don't even remember his name because I think they only say it one time in the episode. And like, I'm not invested in this relationship at all. I think when we finally got to the part where Meryl's giving her impassioned speech about wanting to be there, she mentioned like something happening in the past that I don't remember happening, and I'm like, this is all going too fast. I don't know, like, I'm just not invested in it all. And then this is what, like 4 episodes in a row that have just been these like deadly serious melodramatic, like big action set piece things happening, and I'm like,
yeah, it's
I'm
really
not having any fun.
It really says something that I can't help. But like the most memorable moments in this episode for me is the part where the like neon scum gang guys dragged Meryl along to take pictures of them committing cool crimes.
Yes,
and like, take a picture of us.
That was pretty
doing
funny.
Hella sick crimes, yo. And it's like, that's some old school Trigun shit. Right
there. And like even just even if you're only watching Trigun Stampede and know nothing about the original anime, the first episode or 2 promises you fun. Like I was expecting to have
this episode is pretty goofy.
And the past like 4 episodes have been like these big dramatic like things with characters that we have not had
straight
time
to serious mode. Yeah,
we have not had time to develop. We talked last time about Vash hasn't smiled in 4 episodes. I mean, that's and I'm like, I'm not enjoying this. Why am I doing this to myself? And yeah, so I just stopped watching. So
okay,
going beyond halfway through episode 7, I don't know what happened. So anyway,
we went to the flashback zone, but with Vash this time.
All right.
Yeah. So episode 8 is basically shows the aftermath of the seed ships crashing, and basically answers the question, right? Of like, we know Vash was a child once, right? And we now know Vash as the red-coated gunslinger, but there was in fact an in-between period between those 2 points, and episode 8 sort of combines like 2 or 3 different manga storylines into one, which, the more I think about it, is kind of clumsy, but also understandable when you are working with a 12-episode series. And I think the thing that I run into once again, right, is like, on paper, this is an efficient and clinically effective way to like compress that much storytelling into a single like 22-minute episode. But I think it continues to run into the issue that we had with Wolfwood of, these are meant to be big emotional plays, but we just haven't had the time to sit with these characters and be endeared to them and be compelled by their struggle. And so you can play out the big events in front of me, and you can do a fairly competent job at it. But like, I mean, again, I think Jell is correct. Like, if you don't have the history of Trigun already in you, I do wonder if any of this stuff lands.
Can't get the shoe to drop unless you've walked those shoes up the hill.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, I can say from my perspective, like, it was not clicking for me, like, and I just finally reached the point of like, why am I watching this?
Right.
So
yeah,
but I mean, how are you guys feeling, I guess, at this stage now that we're getting pretty deep into it?
Yeah, I'm pretty indifferent, which I would say is worse than how I felt before, which was like, before I was sort of indifferent of like, I'm interested in seeing where this goes, and now I'm just like, well, I've watched 8 episodes. Right.
You're just going through the motions at this point.
Sorta. Because I watched this with G, and so what was a little more interesting to me is just hearing like, oh, well, the original manga went this way. And I'm like, oh yes, I see how they got from there to this. Right, like, and
I academic study.
Cross my arms and nod my head. Right.
I think, yeah. I mean, I feel bad about it, but I do feel like at this point I do treat Stampede as more of something to be dissected, because again, I look. We could all be so lucky to make something in our lives that is so popular that 30 years later, people are still giving you money to just make new versions of that thing. Right. But I can't help but just that is the only way I can approach Stampede, I guess, is like, it is curious to see what Nightowl wants to do with Trigun in 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as the person with the broadest perspective on how this story goes, like, is there any hope of them making something of like the last 4 or 5 episodes like to tie up any kind of storyline or anything? Or
I'm gonna be honest, man, I think if you want to place your hopes in anybody at this point when it comes to Trigun Stampede, you need to place your hopes on the shoulders of Studio Orange, because I think I still don't entirely love the art style, but I think Orange continues to be a very technically competent studio, right?
Yeah,
like,
I just
despite
think the show
everything,
looks good.
Yeah, like everything we've said about Trigun is mostly aimed at its narrative. Visually, I think the show continues to it is executing on the aesthetic it has chosen for itself. Yeah. Regardless of how you feel about that aesthetic, they are successfully achieving it. And I think, unfortunately, that's the best you can hope for at this point, is that we're going to get some really impressive visual spectacle towards the end of this thing. Because narratively, I am now fairly confident I know where this anime will end based on the most recent episode. Like, we're probably going to get one more episode of flashback, which will be Vash and Knives' first confrontation after the crash. And then the last 3 episodes will be, we will jump back to the present, and it will be Vash's I guess now 3rd confrontation of Knives at the City of July. And if it goes anything like how it does in the manga, visually, it'll be pretty fucking sick.
I hope so. Definitely hope so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I've never had anything bad to say about the presentation of it as far as the technical quality. I don't necessarily agree with the turning it into a more movie-like presentation, but the animation and everything is fantastic. And again, Orange are the best of the business. I have no problem saying that for TV anime made from CG. Orange is the best in the business. So, yeah, I just that at this point that's not enough for me though. I'm totally disconnected at this point. So
understandable. Yeah, I just want to get to the end at this point and then go. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
and then you can read the manga.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe I
once per podcast, I will shill the Trigun manga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that high note, we'll end this super long episode.
Yeah.
Well, probably not too much longer than our last couple of. I don't know how we keep having these. Well, we had a lot going on this time. That's all I'll say. But yeah. So let's do our housekeeping. You can check us out at theglorioblog.com. You can follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog, or on co-host at GLORIO. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and of course YouTube, where you can like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, all those good things. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch you next time.